You did everything right. You worked hard, you kept your word, you had people's backs, and you thought that was enough. Then somebody smiled in your face and stabbed you in the back the second you turned around. Sound familiar? Maybe it was a coworker who took credit for your grind. Maybe it was a so-called friend who talked trash the moment you left the room. Maybe it was somebody in your own family playing both sides like a con artist working a room full of suckers. Here's the cold, hard truth nobody wants to say out loud. Nice guys and nice girls get finished last, and the folks who play dirty usually walk away with the bag. But 500 years ago, one man figured out exactly how power really works, how people really behave when nobody's watching, and how to win the game even when the other side is cheating. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli, and today we're breaking down exactly how to think like him. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you're gonna see the game completely differently. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to The Hidden Mind, the channel where we dig deep into the psychology of power, influence, and the sides of human nature most people are too scared to talk about. If you're new here, welcome to the family, and if you're a returning member of this crew, you already know how we do it. We don't sugarcoat things around here, we tell it straight. No filter, no fluff. Before we dive into today's topic, I gotta ask you for a quick favor. If this kind of content hits home for you, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and it tells the algorithm to put this video in front of more people who need to hear it. Drop a comment down below and let me know your thoughts, your stories, your own experience getting played by somebody who wasn't playing fair. I read every single comment, and honestly, some of y'all have wilder stories than anything I could script. If you know somebody who's dealing with a snake in their life right now, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need today. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we drop videos like this regularly and you do not want to miss them. Lastly, if you want to go the extra mile and directly support what we're building here, you can use the Super Thanks option right below this video. Every single bit helps us keep making content that actually means something, and I appreciate every single one of you who does it. All right, now let's get into it, because today we're talking about something real. We're talking about what to do when people play dirty, and how one Italian political thinker from the Renaissance basically wrote the manual on it. Let's go. The game nobody warned you about. Nobody sits you down as a kid and tells you the real rules of the game. They teach you to share, to say please and thank you, to play fair, to wait your turn. And that's beautiful in theory. But then you grow up and step into the real world, the workplace, relationships, business, even family dynamics, and you realize real quick that not everybody got that same memo. Some people never learned to play fair, and worse, some people learned that playing dirty actually works, and they've been running that playbook their whole lives. You've met these people. The coworker who smiles at you in the meeting, then throws you under the bus to the boss the second you step out. The friend who's sweet to your face, but is out here spreading rumors behind your back like it's their side hustle. The business partner who shakes your hand on a deal, then finds a loophole to screw you over. The ex who plays the victim in front of everybody while they were the one who did the dirt. It's everywhere, and if you haven't run into it yet, trust me, you will. And here's the thing that trips people up. Most of us are raised to believe that if we just stay good, stay honest, keep our integrity intact, everything will work out in the end. Karma will handle it. The universe will balance the scales. And look, maybe that's true in some cosmic long-run kind of way, but in the short term, in the day-to-day grind of office politics, social dynamics, and real relationships, playing it straight while everybody else is playing dirty is basically like showing up to a street fight with a rule book while the other guy's got brass knuckles. You're gonna get rocked. This is exactly the problem Machiavelli was trying to solve 5 centuries ago. He wasn't writing some evil manual for villains, despite what pop culture tells you. He was writing a survival guide for people operating in a world where morality doesn't always win, where nice guys get exiled, poisoned or overthrown, and where understanding how power actually works is the difference between staying in the game and getting steamrolled out of it. So today we're not talking about becoming a bad person. We're talking about waking up. We're talking about seeing the game for what it actually is, so the next time somebody tries to play you, you're not the sucker in the room. You're the one who saw it coming from a mile away. Who was Machiavelli, really? Let's get one thing straight before we go any further, because there's a ton of misinformation floating around about this guy. Niccolò Machiavelli was not some cartoon villain twirling a mustache in a dark castle. He was a real diplomat working in Florence, Italy, during one of the most chaotic, cutthroat, backstabbing political eras in European history. We're talking 15th and 16th century Italy, where city-states were constantly at war with each other, where popes had armies, where today's ally was tomorrow's enemy, and where getting on the wrong side of the wrong family could get you exiled or worse. Machiavelli spent years working inside this pressure cooker as a government official and diplomat. He met kings, popes, and warlords face to face. He watched alliances form and shatter overnight. He watched good, honest, well-meaning rulers get crushed by ruthless opportunists who didn't care about playing fair. And he took notes on all of it, because that was literally his job. Then, in a twist that honestly sounds like a Netflix drama, the political winds shifted. Machiavelli fell out of favor, got thrown in prison, got tortured, and was eventually exiled from the city he loved and served. Sitting there in exile, broke, humiliated, and cut off from the political life that had defined him, he sat down and wrote his most famous work, a short little book called The Prince. Now here's the twist. A lot of people think The Prince is Machiavelli's personal philosophy on how everybody should live their life. It's not. It's a field manual on how power actually operates, written by a man who watched idealists get destroyed over and over again because they refused to accept how the game was really played. He wasn't necessarily saying, you should be ruthless. He was saying, if you want to survive in a world full of ruthless people, you better understand how ruthless people think. That's the whole point of what we're doing today. We're not here to turn you into a manipulative snake. We're here to make sure you're never caught off guard by one again. Principle 1. Read the room before you play the hand. The first lesson Machiavelli teaches us, and honestly one of the most underrated skills a human being can have, is situational awareness. Before you make a move, before you trust somebody, before you open your mouth and spill your plans, you need to read the room. Most people walk into situations on autopilot. They assume everybody around them has good intentions because that's how they were raised to think. But Machiavelli would tell you, straight up, that's a rookie mistake. Every room has a dynamic. Every group has an unspoken hierarchy, hidden alliances, and people playing their own angles whether you notice it or not. If you're not paying attention to who's really running things, who's just there for show, who's got beef with who, and who's quietly building their own power play in the background, you're gonna get blindsided. Think about it like this. When you walk into a new job, a new social circle, a new negotiation, you gotta clock the vibe before you start talking. Who's the real decision maker versus who just has the fancy title? Who's genuinely got your back versus who's being nice because it benefits them right now? Who talks a big game but folds under pressure, and who stays quiet but actually holds all the power? These are the questions a Machiavellian mind is constantly asking in the background, even while smiling and making small talk. This isn't about being paranoid or treating everybody like a suspect. It's about not being naive. There's a massive difference between being a good person and being an easy target. You can still be kind, still be generous, still build real relationships, but you do it with your eyes wide open instead of walking around with rose-colored glasses, hoping everybody's got your best interest at heart. Here's a real-world example. Let's say you're in a work meeting and your boss asks for opinions on a new project. The naive move is to blurt out your honest, unfiltered thoughts because you assume everybody wants transparency. The Machiavellian move is to read the room first. Is your boss actually looking for pushback, or are they looking for validation on a decision they already made? Is there someone in that room who's going to twist your honest feedback into ammunition against you later? Reading the room doesn't mean lying. It means choosing your timing and your words with intention, instead of just winging it and hoping for the best. The people who play dirty are almost always reading the room better than everybody else. That's literally how they get away with it. They know exactly who to target, when to strike, and who's too distracted or too trusting to notice what's happening. So step one in flipping the script is simple. Start paying attention like your position depends on it, because sometimes it actually does. Principle 2. It's better to be feared than loved when you can't have both. Okay, this is probably the most famous, most misquoted line to ever come out of Machiavelli's work, and it gets taken out of context constantly, so let's break it down properly. Machiavelli never said you should go around making everybody hate you and being some tyrant nobody can stand. What he actually said was way more nuanced than that. He said it's ideal to be both loved and feared, but if you absolutely have to choose one, choose to be feared, because love is fragile and feared is durable. And honestly, if you sit with that for a second, it makes a lot of sense. Love, or in modern terms, being liked, is based on other people's feelings toward you, and feelings change like the weather. Somebody can love you today and turn on you tomorrow the second it benefits them. But respect, or healthy fear of consequences, that sticks around because it's based on people understanding there are real stakes to crossing you. Here's how this plays out in real life. Ever notice how the pushover at work, the one who never sets boundaries, who always says yes, who lets people walk all over them just to be liked, ends up getting dumped with everybody else's work, getting talked over in meetings, and getting passed up for opportunities? Meanwhile, the person who's firm, who sets clear boundaries, who doesn't let disrespect slide, who people know not to mess with, that person gets treated with a whole different level of respect, even if they're not the most liked person in the building. That's the fear and love dynamic in action. Being liked feels good in the moment, but if it comes at the cost of people knowing they can walk all over you with zero consequences, it's going to cost you way more in the long run. On the flip side, having boundaries, being someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect, someone who people know will actually stand up for themselves, that earns you a kind of respect that being nice never will. Now, I want to be clear about something, because this is where people take it too far. Being feared does not mean being cruel. It does not mean intimidating people or being a toxic tyrant. What it actually means is being someone whose word carries weight, someone who follows through on consequences, someone who doesn't just talk tough, but actually backs it up when it matters. It means people know that if they cross you, there's a real response coming, not empty threats, not you just rolling over and taking it. When somebody plays dirty with you, the naive response is to hope they'll feel bad and stop. The Machiavellian response is to make sure there's an actual consequence attached to crossing you, so it doesn't happen twice. That's not being a bad person. That's called self-respect with teeth behind it. Principle 3. Keep your cards close to your chest. Here's something that sounds simple, but honestly trips up so many people. Not everybody needs to know your business. Machiavelli understood that information is power, and every single time you hand somebody unnecessary information about your plans, your weaknesses, your emotions, or your next move, you're handing them a weapon they can potentially use against you later. Think about poker for a second. A good poker player doesn't announce what's in their hand. They keep a straight face, they don't give away tells, and they let their opponents guess and second-guess themselves. Now imagine playing poker where you flip your cards face up on the table for everybody to see before the hand even plays out. You'd get destroyed every single time. That's exactly what happens when you're too open with people who don't have your best interest at heart. This doesn't mean you gotta be some secretive, cold, closed-off person who trusts nobody. It means you gotta be intentional about who earns access to your real thoughts, your real plans, and your real vulnerabilities. Not everybody in your life has earned a front row seat to your inner world, and that's okay. That's not being fake, that's being smart. Think about how many times people get burned because they vented to the wrong coworker about how much they hate their job, and that info somehow made its way back to management. Or they told a friend about a business idea, and suddenly that friend is out here doing the exact same thing behind their back. Or they shared their insecurities with somebody who later used those exact insecurities as ammunition in an argument. This happens constantly, and it happens because people give away information without thinking about who they're giving it to and why. The dirty players in life are experts at collecting information. They ask casual questions, they play the role of a good listener, and they file away everything you say for later use. Meanwhile, they're not handing you the same level of access to their own inner world. That's an imbalance. And imbalances in information are exactly how manipulators gain the upper hand. So here's the move. Get comfortable holding some things close. You don't owe everybody a full explanation of your plans, your feelings, or your next steps. Let your actions speak when the time is right, and stop broadcasting your strategy to people who haven't proven they deserve that kind of trust. This alone will protect you from more backstabbing than almost anything else on this list. Principle 4. Be the fox and the lion. Machiavelli used this incredible metaphor that I think about all the time. He said, a smart leader has to be both a fox and a lion. The lion is strong, powerful, and can scare off wolves through sheer force, but the lion can't see traps. A lion will walk straight into a snare because it's relying purely on strength and doesn't have the cunning to spot the danger before it's too late. The fox, on the other hand, is clever. The fox can see the traps coming from a mile away, can outsmart bigger, stronger animals through wit alone, but the fox doesn't have the raw power to fend off a direct attack from a pack of wolves. Machiavelli's point was that you need both. Strength without cunning gets you walked into traps. Cunning without strength leaves you vulnerable when things get physical or when somebody comes at you directly and aggressively. The people who actually win, the people who navigate dirty situations successfully, know how to blend both of these qualities depending on the situation. In real life, this means knowing when to be strategic and subtle, reading between the lines, picking up on hidden agendas, avoiding obvious traps that less perceptive people walk right into. But it also means knowing when to stand firm, when to be direct, when to show real strength and not back down, because sometimes subtlety just doesn't cut it, and you need to draw a hard line. Here's an example. Let's say somebody at work is subtly undermining you, making little comments in meetings, taking credit for your ideas in small, sneaky ways. The fox in you notices the pattern immediately, doesn't overreact emotionally, and starts documenting everything quietly, building a case, staying 2 steps ahead. But then, at some point, if that behavior escalates, or if a direct confrontation becomes necessary, the lion in you steps up, addresses it head-on, clearly and with confidence, no more playing it soft. That combination, the quiet awareness of the fox, plus the willingness to show strength like the lion when it's actually needed, is what separates people who get walked over from people who don't. Too many people are all lion and no fox. They're strong, they're loud, they're aggressive, but they can't read a room or see a setup coming, so they keep getting caught off guard by people smarter and sneakier than them. And too many other people are all fox and no lion. They're smart, they're observant, they see everything coming, but they never actually stand up for themselves when it matters, so people keep testing their limits because there's never any real consequence. You need both halves working together. Principle 5. Fortune favors the bold. Machiavelli had this whole theory about fortune, basically the idea of luck, circumstance, timing, the stuff in life you can't fully control. He believed fortune controls about half of what happens to us, but the other half, We control through our own actions, our own boldness, our own willingness to take calculated risks when the moment calls for it. He used this vivid image of fortune as a river that floods. When the weather's calm, everybody underestimates the river. Nobody prepares, nobody builds proper defenses. Then the storm hits, the river floods, and everybody who didn't prepare gets swept away, while the people who saw it coming and built dams and channels ahead of time stay protected. His point was that bold, decisive action, taken at the right moment, can redirect the flow of fortune in your favor, while passive people, who just wait around hoping things work out, tend to get wrecked by circumstances they should have seen coming. This connects directly to dealing with dirty players. When somebody crosses you, when somebody betrays your trust, when somebody plays games behind your back, the passive move is to just absorb it, stay quiet, hope it resolves itself, hope karma handles it. The bold move, the Machiavellian move, is to actually take decisive action. That might mean confronting the situation directly. That might mean cutting ties immediately instead of giving someone the fifth or sixth chance. That might mean making a strategic move to protect your position before things get worse. Bold doesn't mean reckless. Machiavelli wasn't saying charge in blindly without a plan. He was saying, once you've read the situation, once you understand what's really happening, don't sit around paralyzed by fear or indecision. Act. The people who play dirty are usually counting on their targets to freeze up, to be too polite or too scared to actually respond. When you break that pattern, when you actually move decisively instead of just absorbing the hit, you completely flip the dynamic. Think about every time you've regretted not saying something, not standing up for yourself, not confronting a situation head-on when you had the chance. That hesitation, that waiting around hoping things resolve themselves, that's exactly the energy Machiavelli is warning against. Fortune, or in modern terms, opportunity, doesn't wait around for you to feel ready. It rewards the people who move with confidence, even when there's risk involved. Principle 6. Control the narrative. Here's something the dirty players in your life understand instinctively, even if they've never read a page of Machiavelli. Perception is reality for most people. It doesn't matter what actually happened half the time. What matters is what story gets told and believed by the people around you. Whoever controls the story controls the outcome. This is exactly why manipulative people are often master storytellers. They'll twist a situation, play the victim, spin a narrative where they're innocent and you're the problem. And if you're not paying attention, if you're too busy assuming the truth will just naturally come out on its own, you can get completely blindsided by a false narrative spreading before you even know it's happening. Machiavelli understood this deeply. Rulers who let their enemies control the public perception of events, even when those rulers were technically in the right, often ended up losing support, losing power, and losing everything, purely because they didn't manage how their actions were perceived. Being right isn't enough. You have to actually communicate and control how your actions and your character are perceived by the people whose opinions matter. In real life, this means you can't just assume people will automatically see the truth. If somebody's spreading rumors about you, staying silent and hoping people will figure it out eventually is often a losing strategy. Sometimes you need to get ahead of it, communicate your side clearly, show receipts if necessary, and make sure the people whose opinions actually matter to you have accurate information instead of a manipulated version of events. This also applies in a preventative way. Be mindful of how your actions look, not just what your intentions are. You might have the best intentions in the world, but if your actions get twisted or taken out of context by somebody with an agenda, intentions won't save you. Document things when it matters. Communicate clearly. Don't leave gaps in the story that a dirty player can fill in with their own version of events. Controlling the narrative isn't about lying or manipulating people. It's about making sure the truth actually reaches the people who need to hear it, instead of assuming truth wins by default. Spoiler alert, it doesn't always. The loudest, most confident narrative usually wins, regardless of accuracy, unless somebody steps up to correct the record. Principle 7. Choose your battles. Now here's a principle that might surprise you, because a lot of people think being Machiavellian means fighting every single battle, dominating every interaction, and never letting anything slide. That's actually a huge misunderstanding. A truly strategic mind knows that not every slight, not every dirty move, not every disrespectful comment deserves a full response. Machiavelli understood that resources, whether that's political capital, energy, reputation, or time, are limited. If you spend all your energy fighting every small battle, you won't have anything left when a truly important battle shows up. Dirty players sometimes throw out small provocations specifically to bait you into an emotional reaction, to distract you, to drain your energy, or to make you look unstable or overly aggressive in front of others. The strategic move is discernment. You have to ask yourself, does this particular situation actually threaten something important, my reputation, my position, my well-being, or is this just noise designed to get under my skin? If it's genuinely important, you address it, directly and decisively, no hesitation. But if it's just petty noise, sometimes the most powerful response is simply not giving it the reaction the other person is fishing for. This is huge in modern life, especially with how much drama and provocation happens online and in group settings. Somebody throws a little jab, a little passive-aggressive comment, hoping you'll blow up and make a scene, which then makes you look like the problem. If you can recognize that bait for what it is and choose not to bite, you keep your power. You stay in control of your own reactions instead of letting somebody else pull your strings. At the same time, choosing your battles doesn't mean being a doormat who lets everything slide because you're scared of confrontation. It means being intentional. Save your energy, your reputation, and your social capital for the battles that actually matter, and let the small stuff roll off your back. This is exactly what separates a strategic mind from a reactive one, and honestly, it drives dirty players crazy when their bait doesn't land the way they expected. Principle 8. Never let your emotions call the shots. This might be the single most important principle on this entire list, because emotional reactions are the #1 thing that gets people played. When somebody does you dirty, the natural human response is anger, hurt, maybe even panic. And here's the thing, dirty players are counting on that emotional reaction. They want you to react impulsively, say something you'll regret, make a scene, burn a bridge, or make a decision out of raw emotion instead of clear thinking. Because an emotional person makes mistakes, and mistakes are exactly what manipulative people exploit. Machiavelli's entire philosophy is built around cold, clear, rational thinking, even in the middle of chaos, betrayal, and high-stakes situations. He wasn't advocating for suppressing emotions entirely, like some kind of robot. He was advocating for not letting emotions be the thing that steers your decisions when the stakes are high. Feel the anger, feel the hurt. That's human and completely valid, but don't act from that place. Let the emotion pass through you, then make your next move from a place of clarity and strategy. Here's a real-world example. Somebody betrays your trust. Maybe they lied to you. Maybe they went behind your back on something important. The emotional response is to confront them immediately, in the heat of the moment, possibly saying things you can't take back, possibly escalating a situation that could have been handled more strategically. The Machiavellian response is to take a breath, step back, assess the actual situation clearly, and then decide on a course of action once the emotional fog has cleared. Sometimes that means waiting a day before responding. Sometimes it means thinking through what you actually want the outcome to be before you say a single word. People who operate purely on emotion are predictable, and predictable people are easy to manipulate. If somebody knows exactly which buttons to push to make you blow up, they will absolutely use that knowledge against you. But if you're someone who stays composed, who thinks before reacting, who doesn't give people the satisfaction of an emotional meltdown, you become a much harder target. You stop being predictable, and that alone removes a huge weapon from a manipulator's toolkit. This is genuinely one of the hardest skills to master because our emotions are powerful and they don't just switch off on command. But building the habit of pausing before reacting, of thinking a few steps ahead instead of responding purely on impulse, that's a skill that will serve you in literally every area of your life, not just dealing with dirty players. Principle 9. Study your enemy like a textbook. Machiavelli was obsessed with studying history, studying past rulers, studying the patterns of how power rises and falls. He believed that understanding your opponent, understanding human behavior in general, was one of the most valuable things a person could invest their time in. You can't effectively navigate a situation with someone if you don't actually understand how they think, what motivates them, and what patterns they consistently follow. When somebody plays dirty with you once, pay close attention, because it's rarely a one-time thing. People operate off patterns. If somebody lied to you once, study how they lied, what triggered it, what they had to gain from it. If somebody betrayed your trust, look at the pattern leading up to that betrayal. Were there warning signs you missed? Chances are, if you look back honestly, there probably were. This isn't about becoming paranoid or obsessive over people who've wronged you. It's about pattern recognition. The people who keep getting blindsided by the same type of betrayal over and over again are usually the ones who refuse to study the patterns, who keep giving people the benefit of the doubt without actually observing their behavior over time. Machiavelli would tell you, don't just listen to what people say about themselves. Watch what they actually do, consistently, over time, especially under pressure or when they think nobody's watching closely. This applies to more than just individual people too. Study group dynamics. Study how office politics tend to play out in your specific workplace. Study the patterns of how certain types of relationships tend to unfold. The more data you gather about how people and situations actually behave, as opposed to how you hope they'll behave, the better equipped you are to anticipate problems before they blindside you. And here's an important nuance. Studying your enemy, or honestly, studying anybody, isn't about assuming the worst in everyone. It's about not being naive. There's a difference between trusting someone and being blind to who they actually are. You can extend trust while still paying attention. In fact, the smartest, most Machiavellian approach is to observe people closely precisely because you want to know who genuinely deserves your trust and who's just performing trustworthiness for their own benefit. Principle 10. Loyalty is earned, not assumed. One of the biggest mistakes people make, and honestly, it's a mistake rooted in good intentions, is assuming loyalty exists just because of a title, a relationship, or a history together. Family, right? Best friend, right? Coworker who's always been cool with you, right? Machiavelli would push back hard on that assumption. He believed loyalty needs to be tested, observed, and earned over time, not just assumed because of a label. This sounds harsh, but think about how many times you've heard stories, or maybe even lived through a story yourself, where somebody trusted a close friend or family member completely, without ever really testing that loyalty under pressure, and then got blindsided when that person acted purely out of self-interest the moment it mattered. Machiavelli's cold, hard take is that most people, when push comes to shove, will act in their own self-interest, even people who claim to love and support you. That doesn't mean everybody's out to get you, but it means loyalty should be something you observe in action, not something you just take on faith because of a label like friend or family. Here's how this plays out practically. Pay attention to how people treat you when it costs them something. Anybody can be loyal when loyalty is easy, when there's nothing on the line, when supporting you doesn't require any sacrifice on their part. The real test is what happens when being loyal to you actually costs them something, socially, financially, or otherwise? Do they still show up? Do they still have your back? Or do they suddenly develop amnesia about your relationship the second it's inconvenient for them? This principle isn't about becoming cynical and assuming everybody's going to betray you. It's about calibrating your trust based on actual evidence instead of assumptions. The people who've proven, through actions, not words, that they've got your back, those are the people worth investing deeply in. The people who talk a big game about loyalty, but disappear the second things get hard, those are the people you keep at a respectful distance, no matter what label they hold in your life. Machiavelli also flips this around. If you want real loyalty from other people, you have to be consistent, reliable, and willing to actually show up for others when it costs you something too. Loyalty is a two-way street, and it's built through consistent action over time, not through assumptions based on titles or history. Principle 11. Silence is a weapon. In a world where everybody's constantly talking, reacting, posting, and explaining themselves, silence has become an incredibly underrated and powerful tool. Machiavelli understood that not every insult needs a response, not every provocation deserves your words, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply not give somebody the reaction they're fishing for. Think about it from a psychological standpoint. When somebody tries to provoke you, insult you, or manipulate you, they're usually looking for a specific reaction: anger, defensiveness, an emotional outburst, something they can use as evidence that you're the problem, or something that validates their narrative about you. When you respond with silence instead, calm, composed, unbothered silence, it completely disrupts their plan. They don't get the reaction they wanted, and that lack of reaction often says more than any comeback ever could. Silence also protects you from giving away information. Remember Principle 3, keeping your cards close? Silence is the practical application of that. When you're in a tense situation, when somebody's trying to bait you into revealing your plans, your feelings, or your next move, staying quiet and observing instead of immediately responding gives you time to actually think, and it denies the other person valuable information they could use against you. There's also something to be said about the power dynamics of silence in negotiations and confrontations. Ever notice how the person who talks the least in a tense conversation often comes across as the most composed, the most in control? Meanwhile, the person who's rambling, over-explaining, getting defensive, and filling every silence with more words often comes across as anxious or guilty, even if they've done nothing wrong. Silence, used strategically, projects confidence and control. Now, this doesn't mean staying silent forever or never standing up for yourself. Remember, we talked about the lion earlier. Sometimes you do need to speak up directly and firmly. But silence as a default response to petty provocations, silence as a tool to gather information before reacting, and silence as a way to avoid giving manipulators the emotional reaction they're hunting for, that's an incredibly powerful weapon that most people completely underuse. Principle 12. Appearances are currency. Machiavelli was brutally honest about this one, and it might rub some people the wrong way, but it's real. He believed that how you appear to others often matters more than who you actually are on the inside, at least in terms of how people treat you and how much power and respect you're given. Reality is important, but perception drives behavior in the real world. This connects back to controlling the narrative, but it goes even deeper. It's about consistently presenting yourself with confidence, competence, and composure, regardless of what's actually going on internally. People respond to energy and presentation. If you walk into a room looking unsure of yourself, apologetic, small, people will subconsciously treat you accordingly, whether or not you're actually competent and capable. If you walk in with calm confidence, even on days you don't fully feel it, people respond to that energy completely differently. This isn't about being fake or dishonest. It's about understanding that the way you carry yourself is a form of communication, and that communication shapes how people treat you, how seriously they take you, and frankly, whether they think they can get away with playing dirty with you or not. Dirty players tend to target people who project uncertainty, people who seem like they won't push back, people who seem easy to manipulate based on how they carry themselves. When you consistently project calm confidence and self-assuredness, you become a much less attractive target. This applies in negotiations, in workplace dynamics, in relationships, basically everywhere. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about intentionally managing how you show up in the world, instead of leaving it purely to chance or your mood that day. Dress the part when it matters. Speak with intention instead of rambling nervously. Hold eye contact. Stand tall. These small, consistent choices in how you present yourself accumulate over time into a reputation. And that reputation either invites people to respect your boundaries or invites people to test them. The Cesare Borgia story. Now let's talk about the guy who actually inspired a huge chunk of Machiavelli's thinking, because this story is wild, and it perfectly illustrates a lot of what we've covered. Cesare Borgia was the son of a pope, and he became one of the most feared and calculated political and military leaders of his era. Machiavelli actually met him in person during diplomatic missions and studied him closely, and Borgia became kind of the real-world blueprint for a lot of the strategic thinking laid out in The Prince. Borgia conquered territory across Italy through a mix of military force, strategic alliances, and, honestly, some pretty ruthless political maneuvering. But here's the part that fascinated Machiavelli the most. When Borgia took control of a particularly lawless region called the Romagna, a place plagued by crime, corruption, and chaos, he installed a brutal, iron-fisted governor named Ramiro de Orco to crack down hard and restore order. And it worked. Crime dropped, order was restored, but the population grew to hate Ramiro for his harsh, cruel methods. Here's the genius, cold-blooded move. Once order was restored and Ramiro had served his purpose, Borgia had him publicly executed and displayed in the town square, essentially placing all the blame for the harsh methods onto Ramiro alone, while positioning himself, Borgia, as the merciful ruler who brought justice against the tyrant. The people, seeing this dramatic public execution, actually ended up more loyal to Borgia than ever, because he successfully redirected all their anger and resentment onto someone else while taking credit for the positive results. Now, I want to be clear, we are not out here recommending you throw your coworkers under the bus and execute them in a town square, obviously. But the underlying lesson Machiavelli extracted from this story is deep. Sometimes, the person who takes the blame publicly isn't the person who's actually responsible for the strategy behind the scenes. Sometimes, managing how the public perceives an outcome matters just as much, if not more, than the outcome itself. And sometimes ruthless efficiency, followed by a decisive move to shift public perception, can completely change how people view you, even after difficult or controversial decisions. The bigger takeaway here is about understanding cause and effect at a deeper level than most people bother to look. Borgia didn't just react to problems. He thought several steps ahead, understood how his actions would be perceived by different audiences, and made moves specifically designed to control outcomes rather than just reacting emotionally to circumstances. That's the entire mindset shift we're talking about today, thinking several steps ahead instead of just reacting to whatever's directly in front of you. Machiavelli, at the office, in relationships, and in real life. Okay, so let's bring this all back down to earth, because reading about Renaissance Italy is interesting, but you're probably watching this because you're dealing with dirty players in your actual, everyday life right now. So let's talk about practical application. At work, Machiavellian thinking looks like this. You show up prepared. You read the room before every meeting. You know who actually holds influence versus who just has a fancy title. You don't overshare your career plans. or your frustrations with coworkers who haven't earned that trust. You document important conversations and decisions, especially with people who have a track record of twisting the truth later. You choose your battles, letting petty office drama roll off your back while standing firm on things that actually matter for your career and reputation. And when someone tries to take credit for your work or throw you under the bus, you don't panic and you don't blow up emotionally. You calmly and clearly present the facts, with receipts if necessary, to the people who need to see them. In relationships, whether that's friendships, family, or romantic relationships, Machiavellian thinking looks like observing people's actions over time instead of just taking their words at face value. It means not assuming loyalty just because of a label like best friend or family, but actually paying attention to how people show up when it costs them something. It means keeping certain things close to your chest until someone's proven they deserve deeper trust, instead of pouring your whole heart out to everybody you meet within the first week of knowing them. It means setting real boundaries and following through on them, because that's what earns respect over time, way more than just being agreeable and hoping people appreciate it. In business and negotiations, this mindset looks like never revealing your full hand, your bottom line, or your true motivations too early. It means studying the other party, understanding their incentives, their pressure points, and what they actually need from the deal, not just what they say they need. It means staying composed and unemotional even when the stakes are high and the other side is trying to rattle you. And it means always having a backup plan, because relying entirely on one outcome, one person, or one opportunity leaves you way too vulnerable if things fall through. The common thread through all of this is awareness and intentionality. Most people move through life on autopilot, reacting to whatever happens, trusting by default, and hoping things work out. A Machiavellian mindset flips that completely. You move through life with your eyes open, your guard appropriately calibrated, your emotions in check, and your actions intentional. That single shift alone will protect you from an enormous amount of the dirty tactics people try to pull on unsuspecting, trusting individuals. Where to draw the line? Now, I gotta be real with you before we wrap this up, because there's an important distinction we need to make clear. Everything we've talked about today is about protection, awareness, and strategic thinking, not about becoming a manipulative, ruthless person who steps on others for personal gain. There's a massive difference between defending yourself intelligently against dirty players and becoming a dirty player yourself. The goal here isn't to go out and start manipulating people, spreading false narratives, or treating everybody around you like a chess piece to be used and discarded. That's not thinking like Machiavelli, that's just being a bad person. And honestly, that path tends to catch up with people eventually anyway, because trust, once broken repeatedly, is incredibly hard to rebuild, and reputations for being manipulative or dishonest tend to follow people around. What we're actually talking about is defensive strategic thinking. It's the difference between a person who trains in self-defense to protect themselves if attacked versus someone who goes around starting fights. Learning these principles doesn't mean you're going to go start dirty games with innocent people. It means you're not going to be caught off guard, exploited, or manipulated by people who are already playing dirty with you, whether you like it or not. There's also something important to understand about long-term reputation versus short-term wins. Somebody can play dirty and win in the short term, sure. But people who consistently manipulate, backstab, and burn bridges eventually run out of people willing to trust them, work with them, or stick around for them. Real, sustainable power and success comes from a combination of strategic awareness, like everything we talked about today, plus genuine integrity in how you treat the people who've actually earned your trust and loyalty. So here's the balance. Stay sharp, stay aware, protect your information, read situations clearly, don't be naive, and don't let emotions run your decisions. But also, stay a good person to the people who deserve it. Be loyal to those who've proven loyal to you. Be generous with people who've shown they value you. The world doesn't need more manipulators. It needs more people who are simultaneously kind-hearted and impossible to take advantage of. That's the real sweet spot. And honestly, that's a way harder balance to strike than just being ruthless or just being naive. It takes real self-awareness and discipline to hold both of those things at once. So there you have it, 12 core principles pulled straight from one of the most misunderstood minds in history. And honestly, if you take even a handful of these and start applying them in your real life, you're going to notice a massive shift in how people treat you and how much easier it becomes to spot dirty games before they even get started. The world isn't always fair, and not everybody plays by the same rules you do, but now you've got the tools to read the room, protect your information, control your emotions, and stand your ground when it actually matters. Let's do a real quick recap before we wrap up. Read the room before you make your move. Choose respect over just being liked. Keep your cards close to your chest. Blend the cunning of the fox with the strength of the lion. Take bold, decisive action instead of freezing up. Control the narrative around your own actions. Choose your battles wisely. Never let raw emotion make your decisions for you. Study the patterns of people around you. Make people earn your loyalty through actions, not assumptions. Use silence strategically. And remember that how you present yourself shapes how people treat you. If this video hit different for you, if you felt like this was exactly the wake-up call you needed, do me a solid and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this exact message. Drop a comment down below. I want to know which one of these 12 principles hit you the hardest. Or honestly, tell me your own story about somebody who played dirty and how you handled it. This community has some of the realest stories in the comment section, and I love reading every single one of them. If you know somebody in your life dealing with a snake right now, do them a favor and share this video with them. It could genuinely change how they navigate their situation. And if you're not already subscribed to The Hidden Mind, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications, because we drop deep dives just like this one regularly. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. If you want to go above and beyond and directly support this channel, there's a super thanks option right below this video, and every bit of that support means the absolute world to us and helps us keep this content coming. Until next time, stay sharp, stay aware, and never let anybody play you for a fool again. This has been The Hidden Mind, and I'll see you in the next one.